Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the Grimsmo Pen's Saga pen. First off, though, I want to thank very much my Patreon patrons who made it possible. Some of you might remember that I actually had a review of the Saga up earlier, and I did a very early review. Thing is, though, that was an early prototype that was loaned my way by my buddy Sid. Didn't get a chance to carry it much, and it was a brand new prototype, right? It was one of the very first ones out in the wild, and so I wanted to give this guy a second shot. And a Patreon patron let me know that he knew I was looking for one that didn't have the little logos around the barrel there, and it happened to be that this particular one, which is number 3333, kind of a cool number, but this guy happened to be available at one point, and because my Patreon patrons are very generous, I was able to just place the order right there. I don't think the Grimsmos knew exactly who they were shipping to, etc. They just shipped it my way, and so this guy is factory fresh, but as a result, though, I own this guy free and clear, and I've been able to carry it for a long time. I've been carrying this guy for maybe the better part of 2 months now, more or less constantly. I'll swap out on occasion when I'm reviewing something else, but I really wanted to give this some pocket time to see whether it's actually worth the cash. But anyways, so that's the story here. Thanks to my Patreon patrons, I'm able to pick one of these guys up and really give it some time, as opposed to my prior review, which was just an overview of the original version. So there we go. Let's do some size comparison real quick, because I'm going to go on ahead and I'm going to do a full re-review, so to speak, now that I've spent more time with it. Here it is against a Bic Click Stick pen, another Parker-compatible pen. This is the Parker Jotter. What we see here is not so far off the Jotter size. Here it is against an Urban Survival Gear Tie Scribe Go in the small size as well as in the full size here. And so what we're going to see, oh, nope, that's the small size too. But anyways, whoops. Here it is against, let me find one of the full sizes. It's around here somewhere. Here's a full size. But anyways, so what we see here is this is almost identical to the Tie Scribe Go, the original smaller size there. Here it is against a pen I stole from a Hampton Inn, and here it is against the Shown Designs Pocket 6, which is another pen I'll be talking about a little bit later. And then, of course, here it is against a Grimsmo Knives Norseman, which is probably the best-known product this particular company has created. Right, that's what the Grimsmos originally sort of made their, that's what made them famous, and certainly what made them hyped. And this is my own personal Norseman, and it remains one of the most unique knives on the market. In terms of size, you can see that the blade is much larger on the knife because this is a pen. So anyways, there you go. Next thing, who the heck is Grimsmo? Well, Grimsmo Knives is a, Grimsmo, I think more generally, is a company. They are based out of Canada, not so far south of the Toronto area, and they are, they do really high-end CNC work. I encourage you to go check out their YouTube channel. Right, they haven't been posting on it very much lately. I think they've been busy cranking out pens and knives and whatnot. Apparently 3,000 of them. But nonetheless, they are a company that has sort of lived its entire existence in social media and went from a couple of jackasses in a garage to a couple of jackasses with very, very high-end machines. And I say that, by the way, with a great deal of respect for the kind of work that they do. But anyway, so this is, both of these guys are made in Canada by the Grimsmo folks, and this is going to be an extended review. Like I said, I carried this for a good long time now, trying to figure out whether a $300, and yes, that is in fact the price tag, pen could ever possibly be worth it in this kind of world if it's just using a Parker refill. So consider this an updated review, but also it is a full review, and I'll be talking about the changes. So let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this very interesting pen. So on the good side, start with this actually comes with a very nice case. This guy comes with a case that it is actually made of full-on wood, right? This is how this guy shipped to me. There we go. And that's kind of cool, right? It's got the Saga thing. It's got the little Grimsmo dude on there. Even the background of the wooden case is completely, carved in there. Comes with an extra refill, which is very nice in blue. And so that's pretty cool. And you know what? I got to say, it's a neat little case, right? Is it necessary? Absolutely not. But is it kind of cool? Yeah, it is. It's held shut, by the way, magnetically. So that's kind of neat. But anyway, so comes a nice case. Does that matter? No? Is it neat? Yeah, it is. Next thing, size-wise, this is actually quite nice. If we put this guy up next to a ruler, what we're going to see here is that the overall length of this guy is just around 12.5 centimeters, or a little under 5 inches, right? This is not a particularly large pen. And as a result, this sits very nicely in the pocket, right? And I actually have been carrying this predominantly in my pants pocket, just like clipped to the side of the pocket there. And it's worked really, really well. And it's a very nice size, and that it's more than full size enough for extended writing, but it's also not so crazy large that it ends up, poking into things. I've really appreciated this size a lot. I think this is a great size for a pen, and yeah. So that's a very nice thing. Next thing, this is using a standard Parker refill. If I go ahead and I unscrew this part here, see, there is a non-captive spring, and then there is a Parker refill. This, in this case, is actually a Schmidt Easy Flow 9000. And this is a blue refill, but at the same time, this just uses a standard Parker-style refill. There is no nothing fancy, nothing proprietary there, and that's actually a beautiful thing, right? I'm a big fan of non-proprietary inks, just because why would you make something as boring as ink proprietary? Just use a cartridge standard, like they have here, and that's great. So you've got lots of different options for refills that fit in that kind of world. Next thing, texturing-wise, this is pretty great. There are a bunch of little subtle textures here, and I'll kind of point out what you got going on. To start with, we have the little bits of lining here around the Saga in this area here. We have a nice stonewash that is covering most of the thing. And by the way, in terms of wear, there is very little wear even for the amount of time I've carried this. You can see this little mark right here, and that's where it's actually touching up against the keys that I carry in the same pocket there. And so, there's that, but it has a lot of potential for wear right there. We have a little bit of a knurling, kind of a diamond plate pattern going on around the little collar here, which is what you use to actuate the button. On the back here with the button, you see little tiny, you get a little bit of a nice brush texture. You get these little tiny holes drilled in. Well, I don't know if they're drilled or milled. I don't know. But either way, they're in there. And then you even have some bespoke texturing, like, for instance, along the bottom here, where you can see it says Grimsmo Knives 2021. I don't know if that's a texture so much as a text, but nonetheless, there you go. They're doing a lot of different textures, and I appreciate that very much. If you look on their website, they have different options for the texture up here, different patterns, colors, etc. It's all maker's choice, so you don't really get a choice, but at the same time, it's cool to see. Next thing, clip. Clip on this guy's cool. The clip is actually one contiguous space from here all the way back around to this little area here. It really feels like the clip is the area that is most uniquely machined here. This is one single chunk of titanium all machined out through here. And you know what? It works great. It is kind of a machining masterwork, at least based on my knowledge of machining. It is really cool, and it is very, very unusual, right? Very often clips end up feeling very throwaway on pens. Let's get a good example of that. Well, either way, clips end up feeling very often very throwaway, but this isn't. This is an integral part of it, and it also works very well. It has very nice retention. The amount of force keeping this down is good, meaning you have very good retention, but it's not so hard. Get into the pocket. You also see the little Norseman guy, his little logo right down there. It's a beautiful thing. And, honestly, it's worked very, very well. So I like the clip a lot. Next thing, this does have a lot of little Grimsmo-style details here. I'll zoom back in a little bit. What we can see here are little details. Like, for instance, this area here is where the tip detaches. But what they've done is they've actually added a pair of little reflective stripes right around it, which kind of take the eye off of that. This makes it feel like it's not just a break in the machining, but instead, no, it's just 3 individual lines. And in most situations, it just looks like there are 3 random lines there until you start to twist and you realize, oh, that's where it separates out. So that's a nice little detail. I already showed you the fact that it says Grimsmo Knives underneath that clip, which is just another little bit of complexity with that clip right there. You get the little dots that are sitting here around the button, which I very much do appreciate. It's a little thing, but it's nice, as well as this contouring right in this little area here. The entire button area is beautifully done, and, even putting the action of it aside, it's very, very nice. They've done a great job doing good knurling, doing good texturing, all of these kinds of things, as well as numbering the pen individually, which I think is always a nice thing for higher-end collectors. Right, this is a nice little thing. It's very clear that the Grimsmos put in their characteristic ridiculous amounts of effort into this guy. And so that's nice. There are also a few improvements relative to the original prototype. One of them is that this does not have the logos around the barrel. If you watch my original video, or if you look at some of them on the website, see that they have the little Norse guy logos here, and then here, and then here, just wrapped around the bottom of the barrel there. To to me, that was not particularly great. I mean, maybe they're great if you're in love with the brand, but much less so if all you're looking for is a pen, right? So being able to get one without those logos was for me like oh, that's way better. Yes, thank you. And so I'm glad to see that those are being made regularly available, although it is still luck of the draw. It is also a much tighter fit around the tip than it was previously, right? This is very nice. There's also no more rattling with it. It feels very much secure and whatnot. This just feels like a much better pen than the original one did, right? The original one was a prototype, right? It was a very, very early model. This, they have dialed in. This feels like the Grimsmos have done their work on it, and you've ended up with something that is beautifully machined and just very nicely done overall. So I gotta say, I appreciate the fact that they've done the improvement. One would really hope at this kind of price point, but they have really nailed a lot of those issues. And then finally, on the good side, one of the reasons that you buy any product from Grimsmo Knives is for the story, right? I've said they have a YouTube channel, they have an Instagram account. They are very, very public about what they've done, right? About their workshop, about the kinds of machines that they're using, about their process, etc. They do a lot of work, and John specifically does a great deal of work in terms of, both popularizing machining and high-end CNC machining, as well as in teaching people about how it works, and I really do respect that, right? All of my complaints about prices and whatnot aside, I respect the hell out of the Grimsmos for turning this into a very successful enterprise and then using that enterprise as a platform to educate people about the nature of high-end CNC machining, right? That is a great thing, and it's something that I will personally admit that I've learned a great deal from, watching their content, as well as, of course, comparing with other people's content. You want to get multiple sources, but I've learned a great deal more about high-end machining there, and so you will always, or at least to me, I think it's always a great thing to buy from, makers where you're like, I know part of your life. I've seen how these are made. I know what the process designed to make this clip looks like. That's a really cool thing. And so if you think like me, then that's going to be a beautiful thing that is unique to this pen, and it isn't something that's very often found with others. So to me, that's what's great here is that's what's good. You get a good behind-the-scenes look into the construction of the pen with good teaching. You get a few nice improvements, some good little Grimsmo details, a great clip, great use of texturing, universal refill type, great size, and a nice case. On the great side, to me, this click mechanism remains amazing. That's literally all it does. When you press that in, the tip comes out, and then when you pull this down, the tip pops back in. This is very easy to do in practice. Like, it's not only is it great to fidget with, because you can do this all damn day long, right up until somebody in the office threatens to hurt you, your wife threatens to leave, however you want to roll. But this is something that is very fidgetable, but it's also just super satisfying, right? This is, as near as I can tell, a brand new solution to deploying a pen. It is completely over-engineered based on what I know of it, right? I see no reason why it needed to be quite this way, but it has a delicious detent to it. And I say that with some hesitation, right? But this is a really nice feeling object. I put it in people's hands, they're like, oh, that's a nice click. That's really good, right? And the closing is reasonable too. It's very easy to use, right? It's very intuitive. You take it out of your pocket, and you click the back of it there, and then suddenly you got yourself a pen, which I'm writing on the table with. It's cool. But anyways, so you got yourself a little pen here, and then, you're getting ready to put it back in. You just pop it down. Nice, easy peasy. It takes a little bit of force, but not so much that it's a really, really nice mechanism. And frankly, it is the nicest press-to-click mechanism that I've ever had in a pen, right? That's a little ridiculous, right? I don't need this to be a paragon of high-end machining and tolerances, but it sure is here, and that's a beautiful thing to me. So, to me, that's what's great, is that it has a very nice click mechanism. The bad side. This does, unfortunately, tend to unscrew a little bit in the pocket, and in a couple of different ways, right? This pen can come apart both from the top here, where we see, actually, this is how the click mechanism works, right? You can take the clip off and everything like that. And so, but it can come unscrewed on that end, and see, it's giving me a little bit of grief because I got the spring installed in there. So it needs a little bit more pressing. But it can come undone from that end, right? Or it can come undone down here at the bottom. And on a couple of occasions, usually after I've been carrying it for a week or so, I'll take it out of my pocket and I'll realize, oh, this is a little loose. So maybe it's a little loose back here. It's not the end of the world, but, you will want to make sure you're tightening those joints every so often. And I'm sure you could put a little bit of light thread locker or something on there if you want. I'm not advocating that. I haven't tried it yet. But nonetheless, I mean, that is a thing. Next thing, the click mechanism here. I like it a lot. Like I said, it feels great, but it is also not super well tested, right? These have been out in the wild for a good long time with relatively little complaint, and a number of my patrons have and love these guys, but my big questions come with things like dust and mud and that kind of thing, right? Is this going to be as reliable as a much more as a much bigger mechanism, as like, for instance, a bolt-action style mechanism that has fewer moving parts, etc.? This has little tiny bearings and collars and whatnot. This is kind of a different thing. So whether this is going to be bulletproof in all kinds of situations, that's a question you should probably be asking yourself. Although, to be fair, if you need really crazy durability, just get a solid freaking pen, right? That's going to work. Machine Error Classic, by the way, size comparison. So anyways, there's that. Next thing, this guy is, the clip on this guy is very, very nice. I like it a lot, and I think it's a really interesting demonstration of machining ability. And it is a little bit easier to rebend than you might think, but the problem with it is that, like, if you do tweak this guy, it's kind of a big, unique chunk here. So if you really screw up the clip, you can maybe rebend it by kind of reversing it on there, but at the same time, this is kind of an integral part of things. And so there may be kinds of things you could do to this clip that require you to get a whole new clip assembly, and I imagine that's not going to be particularly inexpensive given, well, yeah, it's a fancy little piece. So this is much less of there's something to be said for a very cheap clip on a pen that you can just clip on and then, screw that up here, I'll get another one. Like, for instance, this little guy right here. Right, these are very easy to replace. I haven't had any issue with it. As a matter of fact, it's been great, but that is a thing. Next thing, balance on this guy is a little bit further back, and I'm going to admit here, by the way, I am fully nitpicking, right? You might be thinking, oh my God, Nick, that's not fair. I mean, at some level it isn't, but $300, I'm going to have to nitpick. But anyways, balance on this pen is all the way back here. For writing purposes, you know what? It's fine, but it definitely feels back heavy, right? So you're going to want to keep that in mind, that relative to a lot of pens out there in the world, this guy has a very, very far back balance. And it makes sense. You got a lot of mechanism going on back here and relatively little going on in the front there, but that is a thing that you're going to want to keep in mind. Next thing, the price point on this guy is high. This is a $300 pen. And this is for the bare titanium configuration here. This is about as sterile as they make them, right? And so it goes up from there too. With pretty anodization, you might be looking at $325, and above, right? And the price has actually gone up since Blade Show, right? Now, at the time, I said, wow, they're going to need to lower that price. And, I still kind of think I'm right, but at another level, number 3,972 just sold. So I can't sit here and tell you it's a bad price, because clearly they're selling, but I can't sit here and tell you it's good value either. So this is a very, very expensive pen, and the value isn't 100% there. Clearly people are buying them, but at the same time, yeah. And then finally on the bad side, these are still being sold only as maker's choice. Right, these are only being sold in configurations where you get a link and you buy either the pen they send you or you move on and you go back on the list, which means that it's not possible to order one exactly to your specifications, which is a real shame. That's something I very much miss. And, the other problem with it is, like, it's very much luck of the draw. For instance, I've been trying to get a Grimsmo Rask, actually, one of the new revisions of it, for a long time, and I'd want to get it to kind of match my Norseman, so I've been kind of waiting to see if I got one that came along. The problem is, every time I've gotten drawn for it, it's been some ugly acid wash monstrosity, and so I'm really tired of the maker's choice thing, right? I really wish that they just offered buyer's choice. That would be a very, very nice thing. The maker's choice thing, I get why they're doing it. It's got to be much easier to just make what they make and then sell that, rather than giving people the option, but boy, especially for a small outfit like this, feels a little lazy that you can't specify that, even at an increased price, right? So, unfortunately, these are only available through their Maker's Choice lottery, and you can't generally just go buy one. On the ugly front, that availability is borderline ugly, especially the Maker's Choice only, but the thing is, for a lot of people, it works, so there's nothing really ugly here. I'm sorry, I forgot to summarize the bad, is that they're Maker's Choice only. This is a very expensive pen. The balance is a little farther back. The clip is very much an integral part of things, so if you rebend it, you might have to get a whole new chunk there. The click mechanism isn't particularly well tested in, mud and sand and all that kind of stuff, and it does tend to unscrew a little bit in the pocket, although not to a crazy amount. Final conclusion, this is a great pen, right? It's very, very nice. It's got a great size. It's got a nice little case that it comes in. It's got a universal refill standard. It's got solid texturing, a great clip, lots of little Grimsmo style details, some improvements, a dose of social media magic, and a uniquely enjoyable click mechanism, which is not a sentence I ever thought I'd be using, but here we are. The mechanism is new, and there remain some questions about the robustness of this in extreme circumstances. The balance is a little bit far back. It's very expensive, and buying one is needlessly hard, and yeah. But, honestly, I've liked it. I've enjoyed carrying this, and actually a lot more than I expected to. I kind of figured I would get the second one, and I'd be like, it's fine, whatever, not... But in practice, no, I've really enjoyed carrying this pen. But the thing is, what has, come to me, what I've realized about it is that this is a Grimsmo Knives pen in both the good ways and the bad. On the bad side, the availability remains very limited. That's been a theme for Grimsmo throughout their entire existence. It's just a pain in the neck to buy them. Part of that is because of hype from jackasses on YouTube, just saying. But also, there's the fact that you get little control over what you can buy, right? With the Maker's Choice system, it's just like you get what you get. And in this case, I happened to get a link for one that was really what I wanted, but that's not often going to be the case, right? And unfortunately, also, another Grimsmo specialty is that the price is, I'm going to be real here, a mix of hype and substance, right? This is an absolutely great, maybe $180, $200 pen that happens to be selling for $300, and that extra $100 is the logo, I think, right? That is definitely a thing. But you also get some of the benefits of it being a Grimsmo product, in that it has been dealing, it's gone through the very fastidious process of Grimsmo machining, right? They are very, very retentive about, getting everything right. And this really does show. The original prototype was a little bit janky in places. This is not. This is beautifully done in everything that they have chosen to do, right? There's nothing that I can point to on this guy and go, like, you screwed that up. You should have done this better, right? There is really not a whole lot wrong. Frankly, there's not anything of substance wrong with it. The balance, not really a big deal, right? But you also get the fact that this is in-house, right? This isn't just, another set of pencil guns. I mean, sure, it's a Parker refill, but that's disposable. You don't want them to make a fancy Grimsmo refill that they're going to charge $800 for, right? That'd be freaking terrible. So instead, you get something that is in-house made. Like every part of this, or at least all the meaningful parts, appear to be being made in their shop over there in the Canada, and that's kind of a cool thing in and of itself. But most of all, you do get that story, right? And that's always been the Grimsmo sort of the nature of the beast. You buy because you know who made it, what they've done. They are masters of social media, and they're also masters of doing, both educational and transparent content, right? Some of it's mostly entertaining, but, I've learned a lot about machining watching their stuff. So at some level, when I support the company, I'm supporting that kind of content. So, whatever. That's a little tough. Ultimately, for a recommendation, don't make me say it. This is one of the nicest pens I've used in terms of raw machining prowess. But it's also $300 for a Parker ink holder, right? At some fundamental level, this is $300, and it does, writing-wise, exactly the same thing as the Parker Jotty here for $10, right? I had kind of hoped that the economy of scale would make the price go down on this rather than go up, right? I hoped that $250 would be the early generous price point and we'd work our way down, but instead things have gone up. And I understand inflation, I understand that, but the thing is, the price is really the hardest part, right? I love this pen. I have really enjoyed carrying this pen. It is 100% a great pen. And at this point, there's really not that much strongly negative that I have to say. Most of my downsides are nitpicks here. But then the price hits, and it just becomes a lot harder because there are extremely nice pens in the fountain world for $300. You can get like the Schoen Design Pocket 6, which machining-wise is, I would say, not so far off of the Grimsmo approach, right? it's a very different kind of thing, but it is a very intricately done piece, again, by a small maker. You can get really great stuff for that kind of money. You can get two Lamy 2000 fountain pens, which are absolutely amazing. Or if you want to go something a little bit more conventional, you could get an Urban Survival Gear Tie Scribe Bolt, which is, I would say, it feels nearly as nice. Like, in terms of, the mechanism is very different, right? But in terms of luxury and machining excellence, these are not so far apart in terms of their, and this guy is $99. Or, frankly, if you just want to write well, you get a freaking Parker Jotter for $10, use the same refill, and you call it a day, right? It's really hard, though, as a result, for me to look you in the eye and say, this pen is worth paying $300 for. You should buy it. I love it. But that's because I'm insane, and that's also because I am a Grimsmo fan. I have given them more grief than many, I think, because there are a lot of things that they do that still bug me a little bit. But at the same time, I consider myself to be a fan of their work and a fan of the content that they create, right? And so at some level, I'm willing to pay this, but I'm not sure I recommend that everybody else does. So ultimately, I guess I have to put it this way. It's an impressive piece of machining work. This version is way nicer than it was in the original review. It is a great pen. You're supporting solid folks. And so if money doesn't matter to you, if you're the kind of person where $300 doesn't break the bank in any direction, or if you're a Grimsmo fan who's in at any price, then by God, the Saga is going to be a gem for you. It's a really, really nice pen. They've done it very, very well. But if you are more concerned with value, or if the Grimsmo Brothers Saga doesn't particularly resonate with you, then I think you're probably going to want to open a different and slightly less expensive chapter. Maybe it's called a cheapter? Anyways, there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.